It's preparing for live now, so I'll get the notification when we're on. So it looks like we are on. Good morning, Dr. Fennoy. How are you this wonderful Thursday morning? And let me turn down I'm going to start sharing in my groups here real quick. And I would say this is the 11 o'clock edition of the People of Power. Great things that we are doing right now, because we are able to talk to powerful people while it's slow. I call it slow because everybody's stuck in the house. Everybody's not a moving and shaker right now. They're shaking, but they're not moving.
I don't know. It ain't slow where I'm at.
Oh yeah, I could imagine. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you probably would not be able to do this on a normal day because you're in and out of offices. You're doing different things. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm getting ready, like I said, to share with my two groups one moment. I'm just grateful that you were able to talk to me today. I call you the media superstar because I've seen you've been doing a lot of media lately. I saw you yesterday on the news. So I just, again, want to welcome you. And for the people who are viewing, you know, we do have questions. Certain questions we may not be able to answer, but we'll try our best to cover what really is going on right now in the present. But I do want to get to know you, Dr. Fennoy, because like I told you before we went live, that I wanted to kind of get to know you as a soft interest. You have a big title. Let me just go over some true statistics real quick to let people know what you have under your plate. As the 26th superintendent of the school district of Palm Beach County, it's the 10th largest in the country. And it's funny because at first when I read that, I thought it said in the county. I'm like, in the county? But I'm like, in the country. The 10th largest in the country. That's pretty big. 193,000 students. That's a lot of students. You have 23,000 employees under you. And when I say under you, I mean it in the most respectful way, but that's a lot. That's a lot you have. Okay. So I need to give people that picture because I need to let people know like who I'm sitting with. And it is a pretty big deal. That's a lot of people that you have to govern. It's a lot. Like I said, I tell you, you're the president, the teachers are the governors. So it's a lot. But I want to get to know you a little bit. So you can, you know, I call you like 5-minute introduction just to kind of get a little background about you.
Sure. So my parents are originally from Detroit, Michigan. And so that's where I call home. My dad, though, decided to join the military. So I'm a military child. So I was born out west in New Mexico. I spent the first 10 years of my life in Europe, in England. Every summer, though, for 16 years or so, Detroit is where I went to go learn how to survive. It was important for my father and mother for me to understand how to navigate a big city and deal with that. And so growing up in the crazy 80s in Detroit, the crack epidemic, you know, I saw it destroy parts of our family. And, you know, we're a blue collar family. You know, people didn't go to college. We worked in the, you know, General Motors, Ford, Alcoa. We worked in the plants. My grandmothers and them worked in diners outside of the plants. And so just really humble family that believes that, you know, you got to work hard. And so that's what I come from. Like I said, I lived all over the world. When my dad went to Desert Storm in the 90s, we were in South Carolina at that time, was the last base he was at. And I saw Florida A&M University's band in Orangeburg, South Carolina, at South Carolina State. And I said, I got to go do that. And so I ended up at Florida A&M in the mid 90s, and it absolutely changed my life. It made me the man that I am today. And thanks to Florida A&M, I actually finished college in Germany, in Europe. And then I came back to the United States after that year and, you know, married my college sweetheart and, you know, and started teaching in Orlando, became an administrator. I had a very, you know, most people would say that I had a very fast career. When I became superintendent here in Palm Beach County, I was the first African-American and obviously the youngest in state history.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
41. And so I taught for a little while, became a minister. I was a principal in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm blessed with 2 beautiful children. My son, he's behind that door right now because this distance learning, he needs a little support from his father. keeping up with some of his assignments. And so, but I'll behave for your audience. I won't yell back there.
Listen, that's the realness though. That's what we like.
And then I have, and then the other love of my life is my 4-year-old daughter, Charlie, who could care less about all this. She wants daddy time, and daddy time is daddy time. So, yes, I have a big job. We run the largest restaurant, the largest transportation system, the largest construction business.
Wow.
Right. We have 30 million square feet of buildings that we're responsible for. We have close to 200 facilities, thousands of vehicles. So it's a pretty big job, but I do my job because I have a fantastic team of people around me, like you said, teachers, principals, chiefs. There's just so many people to recognize, but I'm not in this by myself. I'm not going to lie to you and say that the job is easy, because it's not. I have a great school board that I have to work with, and then, listen, and have to be able and willing to listen to the realities of Palm Beach County. We're kind of a county of extremes. We have some of the wealthiest people in the world that live here, and we have some people who have nothing, have absolutely nothing. And I think that sort of interdependency is something that we have to deal with in the school system. We have some kids like my own who, live a decent life and parents can afford to do things for them. And then I look at, my nieces, my sister, she didn't go to college. She's got 4 girls and they live in a trailer park in South Carolina. And her brother has to help out, and that's, so these are just the realities of all of us being human. And in these times, this COVID-19 times, it kind of puts a highlight on the humanity of America. And it's helping me realize how important schools are. And I hope for your audience, they recognize how important teachers really are in the lives of their kids. I don't think prior to this, there were moments where I think some of my teachers felt like people don't understand what we deal with in these schools every day. And I think now that many of us, myself included, have to deal with my child who failed to put on deodorant or brush his teeth in my face every day. Imagine that in the school. So, it's forcing all of us to look at ourselves. And so that's who I am. I'm just a regular dude who comes from, humble beginnings, who was blessed to go to college because of the sacrifices of my entire family. And I don't take any of that for granted, and I never forget who I am and where I come from. So whatever I can do to help all people, I'm gonna do that.
I love that introduction. And I mean that because I think for people who are probably just seeing you for the first time or hearing you for the first time, because a lot of times we see people in your titles on pictures, right? Just like the picture of the person, but we don't really get to know who they are. And for you to even admit, you're going through the same thing that we're all going through. I have a son right now who's up in the room doing virtual learning. He's a junior at Palm Beach Lakes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're all like you're going through everything every parent is going through. So I think that kind of gives us a better perspective on you. Like you said, we're all human. None of us could have any special treatment during the COVID-19 situation where, he's a superintendent, the teachers can come to him. No, everyone has to do distant learning. So I wanted to just allow you to let people know, your background. And I thank you for that. Because that I think that helps a lot. So now that we're talking, I think this is a great segue to the distant learning. Can you just provide an overview for Palm Beach County right now on how the learning is going?
Yeah. So I think, in the grand scheme of things, when you're called, basically in the middle of a week, and, we had about a week to decide to close schools when it got real in Palm Beach County. If I did anything smart, was to let the community know that when I closed schools that week before spring break, that we needed 2 weeks to figure out what it would look like. And so I cannot commend the team of individuals, Glenda Sheffield and the whole academic team, Keith Oswald, who created this space. Now, the data is very clear. Across the country, we're probably leading in this effort. We didn't have any major crashes. We have one platform. We were very blessed that in Palm Beach County, prior to me, during the Ebola crisis, we actually had a plan already kind of in place for Ebola. And so we were able to pull those documents out and then adapt them for this new reality. So we were starting from a really good place. I think in hindsight, if we weren't so rushed into this world, and then remember, when we closed schools, I never would have thought, I'd have put money that we would have been back in school. So no one anticipated this. And so, like one of the things I have a team designing now is an orientation for parents. Like if I could do it all over again, I'd have taken a whole week just to do Google Classrooms for parents to help them understand how to use the computers, how to, like one of the things that some parents are struggling with in their effort to keep their kids going well is they're stressing themselves out. Like I believe I want every parent to understand at the end of the day, you're going to have to be the superintendent in your home. Then if your baby's melting down, hit stop. Let's go on outside. Let's go for a walk. Let's bake some something. I don't want people to get to a place where they just can't do it, right? And so we are now reevaluating, and we're going to roll out what we call the 2.0 distance learning. But let me be clear. Again, I there's a lot of success. I think, at the beginning, we had close to 98% of our kids touching the platform every day. That number has diminished. Now, people are tired. Let's just call it what it is. This has gone on longer than most people consider, but the vast majority of our families and children are still keeping up with it. As we get information about where people are struggling, we're trying to adapt and help. But let me be clear. I firmly believe we'll definitely be in distance learning this summer. And I see no reason of dismantling it when school starts back. I think some families will choose, because we don't know. I think right now what's going to happen, that's happening to us now, and what's going to happen over the summer is people mentally are either not prepared to be around a bunch of other people, people's children. We have kids that are taking care of elderly family members, for the first time in a long time, and it's really unique in Palm Beach County, you have a lot of kids, regardless of socioeconomic status, living with older people, with grandparents and stuff like that across the board. And so part of our decision making, even though the science around all of this says that kids don't get deathly ill like adults, but these kids go in and out of these spaces and they bring stuff home. Those of us who are parents, my daughter's 4. The minute we put her in daycare, we all sick all the time.
Oh, and let me tell you, when they went to daycare, I don't know what they brought back. They brought back something that they don't even have a name for. No, I understand what you're saying. My 2-year-old, it happened. Right. And I understand yes. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we have to acknowledge with the older members of our community, they're not parents today. So they're kind of incubated from the normal germs that we get from our children, bringing it back and forth every day. So now you put them in this new space with this disease none of us really understand. There's that fear. And families are telling us that. Like, I have employees that are scared because they're taking care of elderly parents, or even if you're medically fragile. So our decision making is predicated not just on education, which is our primary thing, but just the safety and security of our entire community. So I think I give distance learning an A for effort, but it will never replace my teachers in the classes with the kids. It just won't. However, we have to start thinking and moving towards a direction where it will become a permanent part, meaning, especially those of us in South Florida, and I shouldn't even say this, but I'll say it, I'm actually preparing for hurricane season. Can you imagine doing hurricane season in the middle of COVID-19? And we're responsible for 16 shelters. Like, who wants to go? Like, so think about those decision-making processes and how we do all of this in conjunction with our local leaders. So, I think as frustrated as parents may be with distance learning or love it, I think it'll be a permanent part of our existence, because now we know we can do it. So if we have to be out for 2-3 weeks for a hurricane, once the power comes back on, we should be able to get kids online. And in our case, it's not just the computer. We recognize as a district that there are certain families that don't have internet access. And so we're working with the local leaders to try to figure that part out. But in the meantime, we have television programming. So we have people filming programs like Sesame Street, like our own versions of that. So for a family who can't get on this platform, they can just go to TV. If you don't have cable, we got channels that have rabbit ear TVs. So if you don't have nothing and you just have a TV, you can watch it. If you have Uverse or Xfinity or Comcast. So we're doing everything that we can, and we're still soliciting information from folks to help us inform our decisions moving forward. But I think it's A for effort, but it's not ideal, but proud of the effort. I mean, our teachers are just superheroes in my book. It is
Teacher Appreciation Week. Ironically, that I have you on the show on Teacher Appreciation.
Oh, okay. It is.
So we have to, So we have to give a shout out to our teachers, and like I said, and now to our parents who have become secondary teachers in the home. And I want to just salute you all too for, my son had a laptop, so I didn't have to do it. But if I know for a lot of kids who didn't have the laptops and electronics, the school board did provide those. And for what I'm hearing, it did go smoothly.
We handed out about a little over 60,000 computers.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't find a laptop when I needed one. I went to Office Depot.
Oh no, and we got to remember that. Like, if I decide to order something in volume, it's going to be hard for other people to get it. So that's why we're trying to take the lead on some of that stuff for our families.
Okay, now you kind of answered a little bit, but I still want to make sure we get through the bullet points.
Okay.
As a father, like I said, you have 2 young children. What, I guess, advice can you give parents to try to keep their children engaged? Because like you said, everyone's getting cabin fever right now, and they're in their rooms, and then they really can't go out, and they're in their rooms. So what are you like telling parents or the teachers to keep them, I guess, to keep the motivation? Because we have like 3 weeks, I think, left for school. So it's right at the end now. People are getting antsy.
Yeah. So I come from a military family, so my house is probably run a little different than most. Okay. Just a little bit, but I think there's something to be learned from that. I think all families should have some sort of routine. I think it's easy, and I know, especially for a parent like you with an older child, it's easy just to let them go do their thing. But I think you got to, keep them doors open. You got to, set, if my son had his way, he would never bathe again, ever. I don't play that. You need to get up and take a shower, put on deodorant, brush your teeth. Like I have my children still functioning as if they're going to school. So it's more symbolic than anything. But I think that's step one, is creating those structures where you can. I think 2, pay attention to your kids and have conversations that aren't about school. Like literally just talk. And even for me, who's kind of a hard nose sometimes, my son is much more sensitive than I've ever been. And I had to take a moment sometimes when he's having a moment as an 11-year-old and he's stressed out. I gotta temper my sort of hardness and say, all right, baby, Daddy gonna sit here and just listen to you talk. You know what I'm saying? And I try to have a lot of adult conversations with my kids around the economy and people losing jobs and stressing to them how blessed you are. But you got nieces, you got cousins. Daddy don't send us money. It's a problem in that house. You be thankful for that. I try to make sure my kids still have their routines. Just because we're in the house one day don't mean my house needs to be nasty. Clean up. So a lot of the world is focusing on sort of the academic pieces. You know how many other things our kids can learn just from us? Take a day, if you are still blessed enough to be working from home, let them see what you do for a living. Let them learn and appreciate how much stress and what you're sacrificing to feed them. I think, taking them on, helping them create the grocery list, create budgets, and even for the little babies, baby, you got $5. What you want from the store? And you got to figure that. So just really, sometimes, again, the teachers are providing the best that they can, but if it gets too much, teach them something else. Teach them what you're passionate about. I remember as a kid, my dad sitting down with me going through his Parliament Funkadelic records and his Ohio player. That wasn't my job. I'm a hip hop kid, but what he taught me was your music wouldn't exist without this music. So just whatever it is that you can do to engage with your children and establish those rules and parameters. But I also want my parents to give themselves a break. Stop being so hard on yourself. This is hard. There's nothing easy about this. And so if you can't, as a parent, I think parents, and me too now, trust me, some days I just got to sit in my office by myself. Don't talk to me, leave me alone, so that I can be mentally prepared to deal with you, deal with the world, deal with my kids. And so as much as we pour into our children, we're only as good as we take care of ourselves. And so I think that's my message for my parents.
I love it. I know you won't see you're getting like thumbs and hearts on the live. I'm trying to pay attention to you too and kind of segue. So if you see me, I'm not like looking, but okay. So you may not know this. I'm not sure if you're on social media a lot, but
I'm not
Sunday,
at all.
Okay. So Sunday, I took 5 students, and it was a pleasure to have them on the show. They were all 5 seniors from different schools. And we pretty much just kind of pour love into them and kind of talk to them, because you hear about, especially for seniors, big depression right now. I call this the Great Depression for them, because they feel like things have been taken away from them. The grad bash, the proms, the graduation, and also for the parents, because this is that moment that most parents look forward to.
Right.
And so we were talking, and I was asking them, how they were doing. They're like, well, we don't feel like we're learning anything, and they give us a lot of work. And I just was like, wow, and this was like from 5 different high schools. So it was just kind of random. So I was like, well, I don't know if you're getting senioritis. I'm thinking in my head, because I know when I was a senior, listen, that last 9 weeks, I wasn't trying to hear anything, because I felt like my grades are good. I'm going to graduate. So right now it could be that I haven't interviewed any 10th graders or 11th graders. But like when you hear stuff like that, I mean, I don't know how much of it is, not saying discounting them and saying it's not true, but I would say for you, as to our seniors, can you give our seniors a message right now? Because I think for the most part, I think they've been impacted the most, because when you're a junior, like my son, he could maybe look forward to next year and say, well, I might have a prom, or this thing may be gone. But for right now, we're living in the now. And these kids don't have that, and they're not going to have it anytime soon. So what would you say to them to kind of just...
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that, my heart is broken for you. I mean, I think, some of the decisions that I'm forced to ultimately make were never made lightly, I think, but let me be really clear about something. My first responsibility as an educator and as an educational leader is a term that we use in our law class called in loco parentis. And so I have to make my decisions based on my ability to be sort of a parent. Like, your safety and security is first. If I can't take care of that, nothing else really matters. And so when I made the hard decision to cancel the traditional graduation exercises and go to virtual, it was because that's the only thing I could 100% guarantee. The last thing I want to do is say, oh, we'll just postpone everything until July. We'll do it at a football field. I think it's a great idea until you start to think about the reality of South Florida in the middle of July, people sitting on the football field. I may need more ambulance for heat stroke than I would for COVID-19.
You're not lying. I thought about when you said July football, because I thought about football, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Right. So, and again, and a lot of people would bear through that, but then it's the logistics. Some of my high schools have 800-900 graduates. How are you physically going to get that many kids? And first of all, they're children. That's the thing I have to keep reminding people. Now, again, I'm not going to tell on myself, but, I wasn't the best high school kid. And so, I've been locked up in my room. I ain't seen my girlfriend. I ain't seen my boys. So the idea of me telling a bunch of high school seniors who've been locked up for a month, come back on campus and not touch each other, not hug each other, come on now. We got to be realistic about who our babies are. And so, but what I would say to them is, your pain is felt by a lot of people. And I think those of us who were blessed to have those experiences, I think we took them for granted. And I think that's why people are fighting so hard to give you something. I would say to the class of 2020, I'm going to need you, when it's your time to lead, to teach us lessons about how to navigate all of this. Because you have to remember, this class has experienced Parkland. They've experienced this COVID-19. This is a lot going on for them. And so, if something happens over the next 2-3 months where they say, Donna, you can have football games again, a large guy, I'm gonna do everything in my power. All the money that we saved by not having our ceremony at the fairgrounds, I still got that money. I'm not spending that money. So if something comes up and we can do it, we will do it. But again, that class is they're gonna have a story that the rest of us won't have. So they got to kind of flip this in their own minds, because they'll just have a special bond. This is really no different to me than, our ancestors that went through certain periods of American history, whether it's the Depression, post-slavery. You have a unifying story. Our elders that went through the civil rights movement. There's a collective thing that binds you, and you need to hold on to that. I think you understand these lessons, and I encourage this class to be heavily involved in the political atmosphere. I encourage this class to, if college is your thing, military is your thing, work is your thing, your perseverance through this is going to help you build the tenacity to push through life. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, life it's never going to be the script that you want. It's just, it's not. We all have to adjust and understand. I want them to understand that no one made any decisions lightly. We waited and we said, what can we do? What can we do? But I always have to default to is I need you alive and well. And if I can't guarantee that, then I sleep well with the decisions that I make.
And this is why I want to just give you a round of applause just for that, because this is why this show was so needed. And I'm glad that it happened when it happened, because, we as in parents, like I said, my son's a junior, but for the senior parents, when they got the letter and it started circulating over Facebook about graduation's been canceled, it was like, just can't, and it really wasn't, I guess, it's one of those things as a parent, when you do something to my baby, I see red. I'm not seeing none of that other stuff, right? So now that we've gotten a chance to kind of calm down, think about it, realistically say, I'd rather have my baby on a virtual than in ICU, right?
right.
No, really. We do. As much as I love my son and I want to see that moment, I don't want to see him in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
That's not the future for him. So I'm glad that you said that. I think that people now have kind of gotten used to the fact that it won't happen, and we're going to the virtual thing now. And I mean, when I'm hearing you saying that, it kind of sounds like in August we may be still doing it.
Well, because I don't want to close that door. I think but I recognized if I didn't do the virtual, I have kids that are leaving for the military in the next 2 or 3 weeks. They may be on a ship somewhere. People ain't gonna let them come back and come to a graduation. If we're at a place where we can have that type of gathering, if it was my freshman year at FAM or whatever school I was, you think I'm gonna be playing for? You think Nick Saban gonna let my football players go to Alabama, skip practice, and come back for a graduation in September? Like, you gotta. I think most kids will move on with their lives, right? Now, for me, why can't we do something really special in December when kids are coming home? So when I say any option is available to me at this point, I'm saying that with the most sincerity. It's just we've got to figure out the logistics of everything. And it's so also ironic. I would have parents chastise me on social, and of course I don't read social media. People would tell me about it, but then they would email me privately and say, "I'm glad you made the decision because I didn't want to have to tell my baby they weren't going in that doggone auditorium." It's because it's who wants to tell your child that, right? And so I understand that sometimes it's my responsibility to be the bad guy. And I'm okay with that.
Right. And I would just say, just a special message I would call this maybe a small percentage. You have seniors who probably think, well, you know what, since I'm not going to prom, since I'm not doing this, I'm just going to throw away this year and we'll start over next year. And you have people that think like that. So I would just say, for a message for them to kind of get up and get in gear, and because I'll just give a shout out real quick to Dr. Alfonso from Palm Beach Lakes. He gives us morning calls every day. Okay. So if you have to write something in his chart, just let him know that this parent says that if you really don't know what's going on in the lakes, your phone must be disconnected. Because I'm saying every morning, hello, parents, this is Dr. Alfonso calling from. I'm like, all right, Doctor. So I just want to give him a shout out because he does keep us informed. But he did, mention that, there's some seniors who may just be clocking out right now because they just feel like this year was a waste and I'm not going to experience. So I'll fail this year and start over next year. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? Like, we don't even know what next year is going to hold.
Right. Yeah. You might be running from the same thing. And, I think what I would say to those kids is, when I was a high school principal in North Carolina, I used to tell my kids, legally, your mom and daddy don't have to spend any more money after your 18th birthday on you. They don't, legally. Now, I was put out of my house on my 18th birthday. It was a very interesting day. My father was standing out there. He made me go get my bed out the house and set the bed on fire. And he said to me, there will only ever be one man to live in my house. That's what my daddy told me. Now, again, I come from a military family. It's, it is what it is.
Okay, I'm like.
But 5 years later, I bought my first house. It was the push to push me out the nest. And what my parents always believed in, I got to teach you to be, a strong man. If you like, if you're going to marry a young lady one day, I need you to be a husband. If you're going to be, my sisters and, I think for the kids, I'm going to say that this isn't the end of your life. At some point, you are going to get tired. You're already tired of us telling you what to do. So you want to do your own thing, right? So this is your moment to shore up what you need so that you can be the individual that you want, right? And so putting this sort of self-imposed, well, I'm just going to wait the next year. We don't know what next year's going to look like either. So I would encourage them, push through this and whatever's next for you, do that. but don't sit here, don't wallow in the woe is me long enough that you block your own blessings, I guess is what I would say. Again, this is a strong group of kids. You now have the support of every adult in the country almost. So take advantage of that. I think as the colleges and universities figure out what they're going to do, as the workforce figures out what they're going to do, and I also would say to my seniors, even though you're a child, you are on that precipice of adulthood. Don't forget that you got people in your house or people around that love you that also need you to step up because they're struggling. I've always, when I made it, I understood as a first generation college student in my African American family, I have a responsibility. When my grandmama calls and says she needs some medicine, I got to write that check. When my mama says she needs a new washer and dryer, I got to write that check, right? Because I know what they sacrificed. They scrape pennies together to send me to school, and so for these kids, for our children, understand that you have so much ahead of you, such a bright future, and don't just pause yourself because woe is me. It's 14,000 other kids in Palm Beach County and millions across the United States, if not the world, that are in the same situation that you are. So you're not alone.
And even college graduates, we forgot about them.
None of them has anything at all.
No, so when you think about it, and I was telling students too, the thing about the good part about this is you're not alone. It's not one of those things where, unfortunately, when you have kids that have accidents or they get sick during their senior year and they see all their friends, living their best lives. That's not happening this year. Everybody is kind of in this, thing together, which I think strengthens us a lot. But let's talk about the virtual graduations. Let's talk about that. How is that going? And
so they're recording now. So I think contrary to original belief, it is going to be 30 plus unique graduations. So it's not like one that's played for. No, every school is going to have their own thing. So, speeches from their Val and Sal's and whatever officers, a short speech from the principal in some cases. But the whole thing is like an hour and a half of them. So we're getting kids are submitting pictures. They haven't seen their yearbook, so we're taking yearbook pictures. It is a full-on celebration of the children. As a high school principal, as a person who sits at every graduation in Palm Beach County, I often tell my principals, ladies and gentlemen, this ain't about us. This is about these kids. So, when we have these 5, 10, 30-minute speeches, most people aren't paying attention to us, right?
No, we know. Trust me. No, we're not. We're not.
They want to see.
I want to see my baby.
They want to see their baby. They want to make a lot of noise, and they want to hug them when it's over. And so I think this format, that's what this is all about. It's not about any of the adults and all of us with our pretty stuff. No, listen, we're gonna say our little short speeches, but it's gonna be about these kids. They're gonna see their face, and hopefully that will give them something they can hold on to. Because I just don't want them to. It would have really broke my heart if we didn't do this virtual, and then we had a second wave this summer, and we couldn't do nothing, and then we couldn't, So again, this is both and. We're gonna do this, and and we're very blessed here in Palm Beach County. We have our own television production studio.
Yes, you have a whole production.
Yeah, so we have full on. I got cameramen, we got a studio, we got professional anchors, and a lot of great editors. So this is a personal challenge for them to do the absolute best, high quality, professional thing they can do for every school. So I'm excited for them, but I am very clear and honest that this isn't a replacement. It's just what we can do today.
All right. So summer school, what's the status on that?
So the team actually, as of yesterday, we're very close to sharing that information with the public.
Okay.
Clearly, it will not be face-to-face. It'll be virtual, but it's going to be different. We'll have it sort of, there's what you and I would remember as the kids that have to go to summer school. That's that form of summer school.
Right.
And then there's the summer school for those families that, want to continue with some sort of learning without the pressure of grades. And so we're going to be creating a lot of platform websites, a lot of information and links to different activities, virtual field trips, virtual, reading sessions at the library. So we're going to take advantage of all this technology and have a platform for people to engage with during the summer. I think, the challenge too, I think, is But when my children go to summer camp, they're usually going on all kinds of field trips. There's more of that type of stuff and activities. And so, unfortunately, again, I think a lot of the stuff is going to be at home, but there's some early indicators. The beaches are opening back up, the parks opening back up. I heard the zoos are opening back up. I just caution, the reason why we're going to keep it virtual is because right now I don't know enough medically around putting people together. And frankly, none of the large gathering bans have been lifted. So we're not going to play that. We're not going to roll the dice like that. So, but we have something planned and we're going to roll that out very soon.
I'm glad you're being cautious, because I do know as a parent, even though we look at things like, okay, my child won't experience this, my child won't experience that. But we also know, and we have to keep it real with ourselves, even when it's a common cold, or, you get that child that comes in sniffling. You're like, why you didn't stay home? Why didn't you keep that child home? That child had a 102 fever and you let him come to school, and now my child's sick and then he brings it home to me. So we get it. And I think as we are going and we're seeing people who have fell victim to the COVID-19, we're understanding it more and more and how crucial it is. I want to talk about real quick the district feeding program. You've been doing a wonderful job with that, making sure that kids eat. Because that's a big deal.
Let me say this, before I even go into the details on that, the men and women in my food service department are absolute heroes. Because from day one, now again, part of my job is to make sure that they are safe, that we put in the protocols, give them the PPE, personal protective equipment, but they have not wavered. They've handed out in excess of probably 1.5 million meals, hand to car. And in some of the communities, people are walking. We realize now, initially we were feeding kids, now just everybody's hungry, as jobs disappear. And so we are doing our best. We actually have expanded our feeding sites to now, I think we started with 32. I think we're in the 50s now. This summer, we're going to be expanding it even further for our summer feeding sites. So I think for the families in the community to understand that we're not going to give up on that. But please, if you happen to be one of the families in need that are going to these sites, just say thank you to those men and women that ain't at home with their families, putting themselves in line to make sure that you eat every day. Because I go visit them and I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of people that would not be willing to do this. They wouldn't do it. And our people are doing it. And so I think I shared earlier, my grandmother worked in a diner feeding people her whole life before she passed on. And so I understand what it takes to be that woman. It's something so maternal, I don't want to use the word maternal, so human about feeding someone. So, it's that thing. So, the fact that they're willing to put themselves in that situation and do that, I just have the utmost respect for our food service workers.
Yes. And thank you. I want to say thank you from People Power. Thank you for, the teachers that are putting in work. I think you answered this, but I want to make sure. It says, how will school be different when the students return to the school year? But I think you maybe answered that a little bit, because it's kind of up in the air still.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say the answer is not an answer. We don't know. we honestly don't know. Our schools weren't built for social distancing. They weren't. And so, but I can share some of the ideas that are floating around. Some people are talking about kids going back in shifts. So would you really put 2,000-3,000 kids in a high school? Would you put 1,500 elementary school kids in the building? I'm still trying to figure out how many parents are going to be willing to put their kids on a school bus. Like these are some of these things are so basic that people are overlooking that, right? And in my world, obviously, is running this large entity, now we start messing with money, with budgets. If people don't ride the buses, then we can't get those reimbursement checks. And that's going to impact the number of employees that we have. In the schools, kids. But ladies and gentlemen, there are adults on the other side of this. There's teachers, who now have to be in the room with all these kids. So when I tell you we don't really know, because, and then, let's be clear, every day we're hearing more and more about the mental instability of people. And so now I got to make sure that people are mentally prepared, not just the adults, kids too. This whole living in isolation thing is people are somewhat getting used to it to a degree. And so when you see, I've been here now, I don't necessarily go, but I hear people going to grocery stores, and if they're not paying attention to the arrows, they may get cussed out by somebody. Like people, it's
real in the field. It's real in the field. Let me tell you.
So you got to think about that. So
Yeah.
All of the things, put it like this, schools are nothing more than a microcosm of American society. So if it happens in the streets, it happens in the schools. So we got to really, that's how I look at the world. And so if we can't have Sunfest, how am I going to have a football game? And we got to figure that kind of stuff out. And so I didn't answer your question because I don't have a solid answer right now.
But you answered it. there is no immediate answer right now.
No,
so I think I mean, unless you have something else that you say, I think that we covered everything. I really wanted you, like I said, I wanted you on the show many moons ago because I know you made history, right?
Okay.
But timing is everything, and I know when it comes to platforms like this, we don't always get what we want when we want it, but it was right on time. Because listen, you have answered some great questions. I'm hoping that my viewers learned a little more, about you and about this whole school district and how it runs and how it operates. And especially right now that we're in this pandemic, we're all learning together. So I don't think there's a perfect answer or perfect situation. But, I think I will ask this because you do have, like you said, so many employees, you have so many parents. Do you think that you all maybe do a survey later and see what can change or how the parents, like what they feel that can be better? A survey from us?
Yeah. I think so when we realized that we needed to roll out the devices, was like sort of the first major survey. It got a lot of feedback. That's how we knew that the number was going to be high. And I have to congratulate and thank organizations like our Ed Foundation, the Economic Council, a lot of private people who just sent in money once we got the numbers. And so moving forward, we must survey the community. If you don't mind, I may send some of those questions to you, so you can share that with your audience, so that we can.
I would be honored. I would be honored
as we could, just to hear from the different perspectives. Yeah. Again, we won't do everything that everybody wants, but at least we can start to hear it as part of our decision-making process. So yeah, we'll be seeking information and input, because I already know that some families will not be sending their kids back to school. I already know that. They already told me. They want to continue with this virtual stuff, but I also have other families saying, listen, my kids don't eat if I don't send them to school because I got to go to work. And so that's where we're going to have to really listen and figure out what's the best solution for all people.
I just caught one less, and I think that's from Janice. So the only question I could see, because everything's scrolling up so quickly, but the last day of school, is it May 20? I read May 29th. Is that right or wrong for the last day?
I think seniors is May 15th, and May 29th. I think June
May 29th. Okay, because I know usually it's like that first week of June, and it's like I know we had three more weeks left.
Yeah.
But okay, so from May 29th. But I really, and I'm hoping that everybody on who watch, and I'm sure that's not going to happen because it never does, but I'm hoping that everyone shares this show because like I said, if you have a child in Palm Beach County, you are affected by what we're talking about today. Yeah. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to pick your brain today. I know you're super duper busy, and you're going to be doing more media, later. Right. Everybody wants to know, everybody wants to get these questions answered. Right. So you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you. I think it'd be probably an important little small tidbit for your audience. I am naturally I'm an introvert and very private. Even though I was in the band, the fam and all that stuff, but my friends who know me, so the whole media thing, I do that because that's my job. Right. But when people say, oh, I want to follow you on Facebook now, and I'm one of 3 Donalds. So my dad is a Donald and my son is a Donald. Mm-hmm. So if you ever see anything on social media, please be nice to my daddy, because he's the only one that has a Facebook page. And people confuse.
So they think they're taking it out on you. Poor daddy probably gets some. You probably like, oh Lord.
Oh, he'll call me and say, hey, what you done did now? I'm like, I don't know, man. We'll talk later.
It's not an easy job. I told you, you're like the president and everyone else, the governor. It's not an easy job, but I'm glad that you were open and candid. And when you can say, I just don't know, you do a lot for people by being transparent. I tell leaders all the time, the worst thing you can do is be deceptive and tell people what they want to hear, because I promise you, they'll hold you to the fire.
Yeah, I'm not built like
that. He said that we were going to do this. So when you say, I don't know, you cleared yourself because you really just don't know. And it could change daily, weekly. I know you all have to kind of look at the governors and go on what their decisions are. And some things you have to do because you're forced to do it. Even if you wanted school, you couldn't have it just because. But
yeah, it's just a lot. We have great teams, and but I will say this lastly, it's organizations and it's people like you that we need to keep us honest, to keep us rooted and grounded. Like my mother always tells me, like when I introduce myself, I always like on this thing, I'm Donald Fennoy. And people will say, why don't you make people call you doctor? I said, because my mama said that your birth certificate say Donald Fennoy. It don't say doctor nothing. And so, and you have to understand who I come from a line of very strong Black women. And so for her, it's, you the only doctor in the family, but you ain't no better than your sister who don't have a college degree. And that's how I live my life. I'm just a man, just like everybody else, doing the best that I can, trying to create a world that's better for my children and your children. And I think for those of us in leadership, we have to understand that your power to the people, only exists because people give it to you. You're not entitled to any power. And so I take my job serious, and I understand that I'm in this seat because someone allowed me to be there, not because I deserved it or was divine,
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to end with calling you Dr. Fennoy. I know what you're saying, but you listen, I'm in school right now. And I went back, once you get a certain age, that brain does not operate the same. So when people get degrees or earn degrees, I got to give them their, listen, because being a doctor, you had a lot of long nights. So I'm going to call you doctor, and I respect that you earned that title. But again, I want to thank you. And again, I always end with my guests are, People of Power show. You're a lifetime member now. So if you need me to give any information out or vice versa, please, we know how to contact each other now. So I want to make sure, just let you know, the door is always open. And I hope you'll join me again. Hopefully the next time it won't be under these type of circumstances. It'll be on a better
well, no, I think what I would like to do for you is, during the summer when we do have better answers, then let's see if we can schedule, maybe not an hour, but 30 minutes, just to inform the people about what's really happening. I think that's important. And so I do extend that offer to you.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I want to thank you again. And thank you to all the teachers. Again, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. So tell your teachers you love them. If you don't, know them, tell your children to tell them you said, hey, because, I think a lot of times when teachers think or know that a parent is involved, things go a lot smoother. They have to know that someone else is in the corner of the child. And I think a lot of times we don't know that.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
But again, shout out to all the teachers, shout out to all the parents doing the best you can. We're going to get through it together. We'll be all right.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Fennoy.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
wraps it up. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.